Hey guys, sometimes really crappy things happen in our lives, and when this happens, our minds try to calm us down by saying to us, just accept what's going on. Just accept the situation. And when we hear this, we're understandably not going to be feeling very calm. It's actually really frustrating when our minds go off and tell us these kind of things because it's as if they're talking to us like we're poorly trained animals. So think about the mind like the HR department. The HR department is very well meaning. They just don't know what the hell they're doing. Our minds are really good at solving external problems out in the world. But when it comes to our own psychology, our minds are clueless. So in this video, I'm going to show you evidence-based psychology methods that help you cultivate a natural sense of acceptance. Here we go.
Now, when our minds try to tell us, just accept it, just accept what's going on, it's said in just about the least accepting way possible. Just think about the tone of it, the tone of that voice. So it's kind of like a guy who's sitting next to you and he's kind of trying to convince you of an idea by nudging you and poking you. Are you going to be convinced by his ideas if he's going to be nudging and poking you? Probably not. So for me personally, like if someone is sitting next to me and nudging me and poking me, I probably want to fire back at this guy. What happens is that when this guy talks like this, there's a natural pushback. You really just want to push back at this person. And what happens is that this guy wants to push back at you because you're pushing back at him. So there's this back and forth. It's actually helpful to think about your mind like another person. So if you're going to fire back at another person, that person is going to want to fire back at you. And the same thing with the inner critical voice in our head. If we fire back at it, it's going to want to fire back more at us. So I want to present to you a way which will help us ease our way into a sense of acceptance. When you hear that phrase, I just have to accept it, that phrase is naturally unaccepting in tone. You can actually feel a sense of non-acceptance build within when you hear that statement. And also the whole irony of that statement as well. So what that statement is doing is expelling our inner thoughts and emotions, which is an unaccepting thing to do. So instead of expelling our inner thoughts and emotions and forcing an acceptance of the situation, forcing an acceptance of ourselves, there's a way to cultivate a sense of acceptance, which is natural, a way that we could ease ourselves into a sense of acceptance. I'm going to show you how this is done. So let's go back to the example of that guy sitting next to you. That guy is your mind, being obnoxious, nudging you and poking you to agreeing to his ideas. So you don't want to feed that energy by disputing and struggling with your mind. You don't want to fight fire with fire. It's actually better not to engage with that person sitting next to you than engaging with that person. So here's a different kind of approach. When your mind says to you, I just have to accept it, your mind's just going off and telling you these kind of things. Rather than dispute, simply rephrase to yourself, I prefer to accept it. Notice the difference in tone. I just have to accept it. I prefer to accept it. And I know I'm exaggerating using my voice, but you could see the difference, right? One is softer than the other. Another thing you could do is allowing that inner critical voice to be there without putting all your attention to it. So you can allow the negative thoughts to kind of be there and you allow yourself to kind of sit with those thoughts. So let's take another phrase here. I just have to accept my inner emotions and thoughts. Change that to I prefer to accept my inner emotions and thoughts, and also allow yourself to sit with those thoughts and emotions. A lot of this is kind of meta. It's like you're thinking about your thinking. So provide space for it, and you don't need to put all your attention to it, and then use the I prefer statement in place of the I have to statement. The key thing here is that acceptance is as much about the acceptance of our inner world as it is about the external situation. We're not agreeing factually with our thoughts, but we are acknowledging that our inner experience is very real to us and the experience of our inner thoughts and emotions. And by not expelling our inner experience. By not expelling those emotions and thoughts, we are doing something that is naturally accepting, and therefore we experience a sense of release. And so when we use those have to statements, we're forcing acceptance. But when we take those have to statements away, we're naturally experiencing a sense of acceptance. When you use that have to statement, really experience how it's like, I have to just accept it. You can actually feel tension build up inside. That's not acceptance. When you say, I prefer to accept, you can feel that release. That's a natural sense of acceptance. So take these phrases and really pay attention to them. I have to accept this situation. I have to accept my inner emotions and experience and thoughts. I have to accept the inner critical voice that says I have to be accepting. And maybe after watching this video, you're thinking, Leon's telling me I have to accept my inner critical voice in order to be accepting. But listen to the energy behind these statements. A really good analogy is that of a Russian doll. So there's many Russian dolls here that are saying I have to. There's one Russian doll is saying that I have to accept this situation. And then the one around that says I have to just accept my inner emotions and thoughts. And the one around that is saying I have to accept my inner critical voice. So start with the outer Russian doll first. In order to get to the innermost Russian doll to accept this situation, it's helpful to start with the outer doll. Open that outer doll up to get to the next doll. Take this a step at a time. So once you open up that outer doll that says I have to accept my inner critical voice and change that to I prefer to accept my inner critical voice and sit with our inner critical voice and allow it to be there. When we experience that natural sense of release, then we can get onto the next Russian doll that says I just have to accept my inner emotions and thoughts. I prefer to accept my inner emotions and thoughts. Allow those inner emotions and thoughts to be there, experience a natural sense of release, and then get to the acceptance of the situation at the core. When it comes to removing the Russian dolls, remember to take it one step at a time. It is a process unto itself. It's not something that can be forced. And I'm sure that even when you work on that very first Russian doll, you'll feel the difference. And I'm sure too that when you work on this exercise, that you'll be able to cultivate a natural sense of acceptance as well. The whole idea behind is that you're growing that seed, you're planting that seed of acceptance somewhere, and then you're growing that seed over time. Hey guys, just to let you know, in order to help you to digest this material from this video, I have created a short meditative article on this topic, and when you read it, it could help you to put you in the zone of acceptance at an experiential level. And I want to give a really big shout out to the therapies RABT and ACT therapy because they have really informed this video. Thank you so much for watching.